I never believed in anything supernatural. I'm the rational type, always thinking things through, which is why I moved to this quiet little town after the breakup. I needed a change of pace, a fresh start. The rent was cheap, and it wasn't far from the city, just a small town where I could collect myself and start over. The first thing I noticed were the flyers. They were everywhere, taped to lamp posts, glued to walls, pinned to bulletin boards. The sun watches. We are all its eyes. I thought it was just some cryptic advertisement, maybe for a local event or some new age cult. I ignored it, but there was something unsettling about those words. The way they lingered in my mind, the sun watches. I could almost feel the heat of it on my skin as I read the words, even though it was early evening, and the sky was turning purple. Still, I chalked it up to stress, a new town, a new life. It was natural to feel a little uneasy. By the end of the first week, I started seeing them everywhere. The people with the sun symbol etched into their wrists. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, maybe some popular tattoo design. But it was the same symbol for the flyers, a crude, childlike drawing of a sun with too many rays, almost like a spider with uneven legs. It started small, just noticing people in cafes, on the street, at the grocery store. They always seemed to be nearby, always seemed to glance in my direction just as I was looking away. I brushed it off as paranoia. In a small town, you see the same people often, right? Then things began to disappear. First, it was my keys. I thought I'd misplaced them. I spent half an hour tearing apart my apartment before finding them sitting neatly on the coffee table, even though I'd already checked there. Then it was my journal. I'd kept it since college, filled with years of personal thoughts, sketches, poems, things I never shared with anyone. When it went missing, I searched every drawer, every closet, nothing. A few days later, it was back, lying open on my bed. But the last few entries, they weren't mine. I hadn't written those words, "The sun sees everything." The dreams started shortly after that. In the dreams, I was standing in an open field, the sky above me a burning white, no clouds, no blue, just an endless blinding light. I was surrounded by people, but I couldn't see their faces. They were standing in a circle around me, chanting in low, rhythmic voices. The sun watches, the sun watches. Every time I tried to move, the light grew hotter, as though it were searing into my skin, pinning me in place. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, the heat from the dream lingering in my bones. I told myself it was just stress. Moving to a new town, adjusting to a new life, it could mess with your head, right? But then I started seeing the people from my dreams, the faceless ones. I'd see them on the street, standing in the distance, watching. Always watching. It wasn't just strangers anymore. I went to the diner down the road, the one I'd been to a few times since moving here. The waitress, Ellie, smiled at me as she handed me my coffee. I smiled back, but then I noticed it, the tattoo on her wrist, the sun, the same uneven rays. "How's your day going, Rachel?" she asked, her voice smooth, almost too casual. I hadn't told her my name. I was sure of it. I felt my pulse quicken, but I forced a smile. "It's fine. How about yours?" She didn't respond, just kept smiling, her eyes fixed on me in a way that made my skin crawl. After that, I couldn't stay. I left the diner, But even as I walked away, I could feel her eyes on me, watching me through the window. That night, I checked the locks on my apartment 3 times before bed. I slept with the lights on. I woke up to find my front door open. I had locked it. I was sure of it. But there it was, swinging gently, as though someone had been standing just outside, waiting for me to wake up. I rushed to close it, my heart hammering in my chest. Then I saw it, the flyer lying on the floor just inside the door. The same flyer I'd seen all over town, only this time there was something different. Written in red ink across the bottom were the words, "You are chosen." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced. Was someone in my apartment? Had they been inside while I slept? I called the police. They came, checked the place, and said there was no sign of forced entry. They were polite but distant, as though they were going through the motions. I tried to tell them about the flyers, about the people with tattoos, about the strange things that had been happening. They just gave me a blank stare. "You're safe, ma'am," the officer said, his tone flat, emotionless. "The sun watches over us all." I froze. "What did you say?" He smiled, a slow, unsettling smile. "The sun watches over us all." I slammed the door shut after they left, my hands shaking. I tried calling my old friends. I needed to talk to someone, anyone who wasn't part of this town, who wasn't part of whatever this was. But every time I dialed, I got nothing but static. Sometimes I thought I heard a voice beneath the static, whispering those same words. "The sun watches. We are all its eyes." I stopped going out. I stopped answering the door. The dreams were getting worse. Every night, the same burning light, the same chanting figures. But now, they were getting closer. I could almost see their faces, could almost hear the words they were whispering. Then, one night, I heard it in real life. It was faint at first, a low hum outside my window. But as I strained to listen, I realized it was the same chant from the dreams. "The sun watches, the sun watches." I looked outside, and there they were, people, standing in the street, watching my apartment. Their faces were shadowed, but I could see the faint glint of tattoos on their wrists. I backed away from the window, my heart pounding in my ears. I didn't sleep that night. It wasn't just in my head anymore. My reflection started to change. At first, it was subtle, just a trick of the light, I told myself. But then I noticed it. My eyes, they were wrong. They weren't my eyes anymore. They were too wide, too dark, as though the pupils had swallowed the irises, like I'd been staring into the sun for too long. I stopped looking in mirrors after that. I tried to reach out for help. I found a woman online, someone who claimed to know about the Helios. She'd been part of it once, she said, but she'd escaped. I was desperate, so I met her in a cafe on the outskirts of town. Her name was Marla. She looked tired, worn down, like someone who had been running for a long time. "They get inside your head," she said, her voice a low whisper. "It starts slow. You think it's just paranoia, but it's not. They watch you. They make you see things, hear things. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late." I leaned forward, my hands trembling. How do I stop it? How do I get away from them? Marla shook her head, her eyes hollow. "You don't. Once they have you, they don't let go. They own you now." I left the cafe in a daze. Her words echoed in my mind, a chorus of hopelessness. They own you now. Everything was gone. I woke up to an empty apartment. My furniture, my clothes, my books, everything was gone. The only thing left was my journal, lying open on the floor. I picked it up, my hands shaking. The pages were filled with words I hadn't written. The sun watches, the sun watches. I dropped the journal and stumbled back, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. I ran to the door, but when I opened it, I found myself face to face with them. The people from my dreams, the people with tattoos. They were standing in the hallway, blocking my way. "We are all its eyes," they whispered in unison. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. "It's over. I can't fight it anymore. I see it now, the truth. I was never in control. They were always there, watching, guiding me. Every decision I thought I made on my own, every choice I thought was mine, it was all them. The Helios, they don't need violence. They don't need force. They get inside your head. They make you doubt your own reality. Twist your thoughts until you don't know what's real anymore. I belong to them now. I am part of the Helios. I look at myself in the mirror, and I don't recognize the face staring back at me. My eyes are too wide, too dark. They aren't mine anymore. They belong to the sun. I don't know where I end and they begin. The sun watches, and now so do I. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like and subscribe. I will see you again next week.